Hello. Have you ever felt like you are living a life that someone else chose for you? That the person you are today is not the person you were meant to be? We are told that our identity is a fixed thing, a collection of traits, a list of accomplishments, a static blueprint etched into our very being. But what if that is the single greatest illusion of all? What if your identity is not a fixed destination, but a fluid, dynamic field of potential that you can learn to sculpt and reinvent at will? Today we are going to explore a radical idea. We are going to apply the principles of quantum physics to your experience of identity. Because your identity is not a tyrant you must obey. It is a creative medium you can learn to master. This is the physics of identity, a system designed to help you stop living a life that is an echo of your past and start living a life that is a blueprint for your future. To understand this, we must first unlearn a fundamental lie. The lie is that your identity is a fixed, linear construct. We see it in our resumes, our social media profiles, and our past achievements. We talk about who we are as if it is a single concrete thing, but this is not how the universe works. In quantum physics, a particle can exist in a state of superposition, a field of all possible states at once. It is only when an observer looks at it that the wave collapses into a single concrete reality. Your identity works in the same way. The person you are today is not the only person you are capable of being. It is simply the version of you that your consistent, focused attention has collapsed into reality. You are in essence a dynamic field of potential, and your thoughts, your beliefs, and your actions are the very forces that are constantly sculpting that potential into form. This is where the first principle of the physics of identity comes in. The principle of the quantum observer. Your focused, intentional attention is the most powerful force you have to shape your reality. The reason most people feel stuck in an identity they no longer want is that they are constantly observing and reinforcing that old identity. They are telling themselves the story that they are not a morning person, or that they are bad with money, or that they are uncreative, and in doing so they are actively collapsing that reality into existence. They are creating the very identity they wish to escape. But what if you chose to do something different? What if you chose to observe a new reality? What if you chose to observe that you are a powerful, creative, and capable person? When you choose to focus on a new identity, you are not just thinking a nice thought, you are actively collapsing that new reality into existence. You are not waiting for a new identity to show up. You are the observer who is bringing it into being. You are the one who is shaping your reality with the power of your attention. This powerful idea leads us to the second principle we must understand, the law of vibrational resonance. In physics, everything is vibrating at a specific frequency. A radio station is broadcasting at a certain frequency, and you can only tune into it by setting your radio to the exact same frequency. Your identity works in the same way. The person you are today is broadcasting a certain vibrational frequency, and the world around you is simply a reflection of that broadcast. The relationships you have, the opportunities that come your way, the amount of money you have in your bank account is a perfect reflection of your identity's broadcast. The reason most people feel stuck in a life they no longer want is that they are trying to attract a new reality from an old frequency. They are trying to find a new job, a new relationship, or a new level of financial success from a place of fear, scarcity, and doubt. But it will never work. You can only attract a new reality by first becoming a vibrational match to that reality. You can only tune into the life you want by first tuning your own frequency. Our exploration continues with the third principle we must understand, the principle of least effort. The universe, in its very nature, seeks the path of least resistance. A river will flow down the path of least resistance. A lightning bolt will travel through the path of least resistance. Your identity works in the same way. The reason most people feel like they are constantly struggling to change is that they are trying to force themselves down a path of immense resistance. They are trying to quit a bad habit through brute force willpower. They are trying to start a new business from a place of fear and scarcity. But true, lasting change is not a battle. It is an alignment. It is about identifying the path of least resistance and simply flowing with it. The ultimate blueprint for reinventing yourself is not a blueprint for a struggle. It is a blueprint for effortless flow. It is about making the right choice the easy choice. It is about creating a system that makes your desired identity the path of least resistance.
And this alignment leads us directly to the fourth principle we must grasp: the law of compounding. This is a fundamental law of the universe. A small, consistent action, when repeated over and over again, will create a massive, exponential result. The reason most people feel like they don't have enough time is that they are always looking for a grand one-time solution. They are looking for the big win, the big breakthrough, the big secret that will solve all of their problems. But the most successful, most fulfilled people in the world are not the ones who found a grand solution. They are the ones who have mastered the art of the compounding ritual. They have learned to take a small, consistent, and non-negotiable action every single day that compounds over time. Maybe it's 5 minutes of journaling. Maybe it's 10 minutes of meditation. Maybe it's writing a single page of a book. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as it is something you can do consistently without fail. Because when you do that one thing over and over and over again, you are not just taking an action, you are creating a momentum that becomes unstoppable. You are creating a flywheel that becomes easier and easier to spin. Now let's bring it all together into a simple 3-part process that you can start using today.
This is the practical application of everything we have discussed. The first thing we must do is what I call a quantum audit. Before you can reinvent yourself, you must first become a conscious observer of your current being. This is not an act of judgment. It is an act of ruthless, non-emotional awareness. Take a piece of paper and a pen and become a detective of your own mind. On one side, write down the stories you tell yourself and the daily actions you take that are creating the identity you no longer want. Maybe it's a limiting belief you've held since childhood, a bad habit you keep repeating, or a simple statement you make to yourself like, "I'm always late." On the other side, write down the thoughts, beliefs, and habits that would be a natural part of the identity you wish to have. This is a crucial step. It is the act of bringing the wave of all possibilities into a state of clear, undeniable focus. It's the first step in actively choosing the reality you want to collapse into existence. Once you have a clear picture of who you are and who you want to be, you must then make a quantum shift. This is the single most important action you will take in this entire process. You must choose one ridiculously small, almost laughably easy action from your "Who I Want to Be" list and commit to it, no matter what. The goal is not to be perfect or to change everything at once. The goal is to take a single, non-negotiable action that signals to the universe and your own subconscious mind that you are serious about this change. If you want to become a reader, your quantum shift is not to read a book. It's to read one page. If you want to become a runner, it's not to run a marathon. It's to put on your running shoes. This is the moment of choice. It is the moment you choose a new reality. With this single action, you are casting a vote for your new identity, and you are starting to build a new neural pathway, a new path of least resistance. This tiny, defiant act is the seed from which your new life will grow. The final and most important part of this entire process is to master the quantum ritual. This is about stacking a series of these small, non-negotiable actions on top of each other. The compounding ritual is a daily, consistent practice that reinforces your new identity. It's the difference between saying, "I want to be a writer," and proving to yourself with your actions that you are a writer. The ritual is the proof. When you consistently meditate, you are not just calming your mind, you are becoming a person who is calm. When you consistently write, you are not just producing words, you are becoming a writer. These small habits are not about immediate results. They are about building a new identity. By focusing on the ritual, you remove the need for constant willpower. The habit becomes the default, and the desired outcome becomes an effortless byproduct. Your rituals are a physical representation of your chosen identity. They are the non-negotiable proof that you are committed to living a different, more intentional life. As you embark on this journey of sculpting your identity, you will come to realize a final powerful principle that governs your reality: the law of entanglement in physics. Two particles can become entangled in such a way that the state of one instantly affects the state of the other, no matter how far apart they are. Your identity works in the same way. The person you are is not an isolated, singular unit. Your identity is deeply entangled with the identities of the people in your life. The habits, beliefs, and frequencies of the people you spend the most time with are constantly affecting your own. This is not a judgment. It is a fundamental law of human existence. For a long time, you may have been unknowingly entangled with an old reality, You may have friends who constantly reinforce your old identity, the one that says you are not a morning person, or that you are too busy, or that you will never change. When you try to make a quantum shift, they may unknowingly try to pull you back, not out of malice, but out of their own comfort and habit. Your new identity can feel like a threat to their own perception of you, and they may unconsciously try to keep you in the old narrative. But the good news is that this law can work in your favor. When you consciously choose to entangle yourself with new energies, with people who are already living the reality you want to create, everything changes. This is not about being ruthless or abandoning your friend. It is about being intentional. It is about seeking out new communities, new mentors, and new relationships that are already vibrating at the frequency you wish to embody. When you surround yourself with people who are already taking the quantum shifts you want to take, their momentum and their frequency become entangled with yours. The old draining connections begin to lose their power, and the new expansive connections become a powerful force for change. The law of entanglement teaches us that the fastest way to change your own reality is to change the reality you are entangled with. This understanding of entanglement is a powerful catalyst for change. It forces you to look at your environment, your friends, your colleagues, your social media feeds, not as a passive backdrop, but as an active co-creator of your reality. The question isn't whether your environment affects you, but whether you're intentionally choosing an environment that supports the identity you're trying to build. This requires a new kind of audit, a quantum environment audit. Take a moment to consider the 5 people you spend the most time with. Do their daily habits and beliefs align with the person you want to become? If your goal is to become a disciplined creator, but you're entangled with a group of friends who prioritize passive entertainment and complaining, you will be in a constant state of vibrational friction. It's like trying to get a boat to move forward while the anchor is still down. The friction of the old entanglement will slow your momentum and make every quantum shift feel like a monumental struggle.
This doesn't mean you have to cut people out of your life. It's about being intentional with your time and energy. It's about consciously adding new entanglements that pull you forward. This could be joining a new class, finding a new mentor, or even just following new people on social media who embody the identity you desire. By adding these new connections, you are adding new momentum to your personal quantum field. You are creating a new path of least resistance. The old habits may still exist, but they are no longer the most powerful force in your reality. You are intentionally shifting your gravitational pull toward the future you are creating. Think of it like this: your personal identity is a star, and the people around you are other celestial bodies. Some are small moons that orbit you and have little effect, while others are massive planets whose gravitational pull is constantly shaping your trajectory. The law of entanglement teaches you to become the astronomer of your own life, to identify which forces are pulling you toward the past and which are pulling you toward the future. This awareness is the first step. The second is to consciously begin to orbit new, more expansive stars. This is not about a selfish act of abandonment, it's an act of self-care and radical responsibility. Your identity is too important to be left to chance. It deserves to be nurtured by an environment that is a reflection of your highest self.
Let's expand on the blueprint for a moment. Most people try to change their lives by focusing on the outcome: losing weight, making more money, finding a new job. But the true power lies in focusing on the identity. The question isn't, how do I lose 20? The question is, what would a healthy person do? The answer to that question will guide all of your actions, from the food you eat to the habits you form. The quantum audit is the process of getting brutally honest with yourself. It's not enough to say, I'm not a confident person. You must dig deeper and ask, what is the specific root story I tell myself about confidence? Maybe it's I'm not good enough, or I'm not as smart as others. This is where the old reality lives, and you can only change it by first making it conscious. The audit is a moment of clear-eyed awareness. You must see the old narrative for what it is: a story, not a truth. The quantum shift is about a single, non-negotiable action. The key here is the emotional reward. When you complete the small, easy action, you get a rush of dopamine and a feeling of success. This feeling of success is the fuel for your new reality. It proves to your subconscious that change is not only possible, but also rewarding. When you make that single choice to put on your running shoes, you have succeeded. The act of running is now secondary to the victory you've already created. This tiny action is an emotional proof point that you are the type of person who is a runner, and it's this belief in your new identity that makes the next step easier. The quantum ritual is where you build momentum. It is a system for effortless change. Instead of relying on willpower, you make the desired action the most logical choice. Think of your brain like a city at night. The old habits are brightly lit highways, while the new habits are barely visible dirt paths. When you consistently perform your quantum ritual, you are sending a new current of electricity down that dirt path, and with every repetition, it becomes a new, brightly lit highway. Eventually, the old path will become so overgrown that it is no longer the path of least resistance. You can make this even more effortless by stacking your new ritual on top of an old habit. If you already drink a cup of coffee every morning, make your new ritual drink coffee, then write for 5 minutes. The existing habit becomes the trigger for the new one, and your identity begins to compound without a need for willpower. This entire framework is based on one final, deeply profound principle: the principle of the holographic self. In a hologram, every single piece of the image, no matter how small, contains the complete blueprint of the entire image. If you were to cut the hologram in half, both halves would still show you the entire picture, just at a lower resolution. Your identity works in the same way. The person you are today is a complete picture, a hologram of all your beliefs, habits, and stories. The key insight is that every single small habit and belief you hold, no matter how insignificant it seems, contains the entire blueprint for who you are. The way you do one thing is the way you do everything. This means that you don't need to change every part of your life at once to create a complete transformation. You only need to make one small, focused change in one single area of your life. That one quantum shift, that one consistent ritual, will begin to change the entire holographic picture of who you are. For example, your decision to put on your running shoes is not just a decision about health. It's a decision about your discipline, your commitment to your goals, and your belief in yourself. When you start to build this habit, it begins to affect every other part of your life. The discipline you build from running will spill over into your work. The confidence you gain will spill over into your relationships. The emotional reward you feel will spill over into your happiness and well-being. The single point of change contains the blueprint for the entire transformation. It is the most efficient and powerful way to reinvent yourself. You are not just changing a single habit, you are reshaping your entire holographic self from the inside out. The principle of non-local consciousness. We have discussed the power of your attention to collapse a new reality into form. But what is the source of this power? Your consciousness is not confined to your brain. Your mind is not a prisoner in your skull. Instead, it is a field of energy that is deeply interconnected with the larger field of potential that surrounds you. This is the principle of non-local consciousness. Think of your brain not as the source of your consciousness, but as a receiver, a highly sophisticated antenna that can tune into a vast field of information and potential. Your thoughts are not just a private internal monologue, they are a form of energy that is being broadcasted into this field, and they are actively shaping the reality you experience. The reason the law of vibrational resonance works is that your intentional, focused thought has the power to tune your personal antenna to the frequency of the reality you want to create. This explains why visualization and affirmations work for some people and not for others. The people who fail are simply thinking a thought from a place of fear and lack. They are trying to visualize abundance while their non-local consciousness is still tuned to the frequency of scarcity. The people who succeed are able to tap into the feeling, the vibrational resonance of their desired reality. They are not just thinking about it, they are becoming it. They are tuning their antenna to the exact frequency of their desired future, and then allowing that future to effortlessly flow to them. Your thoughts, when infused with emotion, are the most powerful tool you have to tune your non-local consciousness. You are a co-creator, not just a passive observer, and your mind is the ultimate device for sculpting your reality. It's a profound shift to go from believing that your brain is creating your reality to believing that your brain is receiving the reality you've chosen to tune into. This is the ultimate form of personal responsibility and power. To truly master the physics of identity, you must also master the art of letting go. This brings us to a crucial, often overlooked principle, the principle of quantum forgiveness. Your past self, the one who made mistakes, who felt stuck, who believed the limiting stories, that version of you is not who you are today. And yet, many people are still emotionally entangled with that past identity. They replay old regrets, they hold on to shame, and they carry the weight of a person they no longer are. This is like trying to drive a car while constantly looking in the rearview mirror. The past is a finished waveform. The you of yesterday has already collapsed. To carry its weight is to actively pull that old reality into your present moment, creating a vibrational drag. Quantum forgiveness isn't about excusing past actions. It's about consciously releasing the emotional charge tied to them. It's an act of radical self-liberation. You must look at the person you were with compassion, recognizing they were operating from a different level of awareness. You must ceremonially forgive them, and in doing so, you give yourself permission to be someone new. This act of forgiveness is the final step in the quantum audit. It's not just an intellectual exercise of identifying the old stories, but a spiritual one of releasing them. You are saying, that was a past version of me and I am no longer that person. By doing this, you are not erasing your history, but you are preventing your history from dictating your future. The moment you let go of the emotional entanglement with the past, your personal quantum field is free to collapse a new, more expansive reality. This is the ultimate act of taking control, not by forcing change, but by removing the resistance that was holding you back. The quantum ritual becomes so much more powerful when you are not fighting the inertia of the past. It's no longer a struggle, but a joyful journey of discovery, deepening the quantum ritual. Let's make the quantum ritual even more tangible. It's not just about a single habit. It's about a stack of micro-rituals that reinforce your new identity throughout the day. Your goal is to make the desired behavior the easiest, most frictionless choice. For becoming a healthier person, the quantum audit, you realize your old identity is I'm too busy to cook, so I eat takeout. The quantum shift, your non-negotiable action is to simply buy one healthy ingredient at the grocery store that you enjoy, like a bag of apples. The quantum ritual, you stack this on an existing habit. Every morning, you have a coffee. After you finish your coffee, you immediately grab an apple. This is your first victory. At lunch, you make one simple change. You choose a side salad. In the evening before dinner, you take a 5-minute walk around the block. These are all ridiculously small actions that compound. They are not about the destination. They are about the proof that you are becoming a healthier person. But becoming a more creative person. The quantum audit, you realize your old identity is, I'm not a creative person. The quantum shift, your non-negotiable action is to simply open your notebook and write one sentence or doodle one simple shape. The quantum ritual, you stack it. Every time you get a new idea, no matter how silly, you immediately open your phone's notes app and write it down. You set a timer for 10 minutes every day and you write, draw, or play music without judgment. The goal is not to create a masterpiece. The goal is to show up and prove to yourself that you are a creator. The essence of the quantum ritual is to remove the need for willpower. The old you would have tried to write for an hour, failed, and given up. The new you simply writes one sentence and has a small victory. The dopamine from that victory fuels the next action, and the next, until the dirt path becomes a brightly lit highway of creativity. The physics of identity is not a passive philosophy. It is a call to action. It is an invitation to consciously design the future you want by sculpting the identity you choose to become, one quantum shift at a time. This brings us to another critical concept, the principle of quantum feedback loops. You see, the universe is not just observing you, it is responding to you. Every quantum shift, no matter how small, sends a new signal out into the universe. And that signal is met with a response. When you make that tiny decision to put on your running shoes, your non-local consciousness has shifted. And the universe responds by creating a new path of least resistance for your next action. Maybe you suddenly notice a beautiful running path in your neighborhood that you never saw before. Or maybe you get a text from a friend asking you to go for a run. This is not a coincidence, it is a direct consequence of your initial quantum shift. The universe is responding to your new frequency. This is a powerful self-reinforcing cycle. Your action creates a response which makes the next action easier, which creates a more powerful response, and on and on. The more you engage in this positive feedback loop, the faster your new reality collapses into form. It's a spiral of momentum that becomes unstoppable. This is the difference between an identity that is a constant struggle and an identity that is in constant, effortless flow. However, you will inevitably encounter resistance. The principle of resistance is one of the most misunderstood laws of personal change. Most people believe resistance is a sign that they are on the wrong path. They believe it is a roadblock, an obstacle, but resistance is not a roadblock, it is a signal. It is the universe's way of testing your resolve. When you feel that pull to return to old habits, when you feel that internal friction, that is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of progress. It is proof that you are actively building a new neural pathway. Think of it like this. A new river is trying to carve its way through a rocky terrain. The resistance it feels from the rocks is not a sign that it is not a river. It is a sign that it is becoming one. You must learn to reframe resistance from a sign of failure to a sign of growth. You must learn to embrace the friction, knowing that it is the very force that is strengthening your new identity. True mastery of personal reinvention is not about the absence of resistance. It is about the elegant and conscious navigation of it. You are not fighting it, you are flowing with it. This elegant navigation leads us to the distinction between effort and alignment. Most people live in a state of constant effort, trying to use brute force willpower to push against the current of their own identity. They are trying to quit a habit by fighting the urge, which only strengthens the urge. They are trying to lose weight by forcing themselves to go to the gym, which only creates a negative emotional charge around the act. But true, effortless change is not about more effort. It is about better alignment. It is about removing the friction from the process. It is about making the desired action the path of least resistance. Instead of fighting the urge to eat a cookie, you create a new ritual that makes the healthy choice an act of alignment. You have already bought the apple, so the quantum ritual makes the apple the easy choice. It is right there. It is ready. This is not a battle of wills, it is a dance of alignment. When your environment, your habits, and your beliefs are aligned with your new identity, change becomes effortless. The ultimate application of these principles is in the creation of a life that is not just successful, but deeply meaningful. The physics of meaning is an often overlooked aspect of this work. Your personal identity is not just a collection of habits, it is the central narrative of your life. And human beings are hardwired to seek meaning. For a long time, you may have been telling yourself a meaningless story about who you are. A story about being a victim, or a procrastinator, or someone who is simply getting by. But when you begin to consciously sculpt a new identity, you are not just changing your habits, you are creating a new narrative. You are creating a story of a hero, a creator, a person who is taking responsibility for their own reality. This new narrative is the ultimate source of motivation and meaning. When you are living a meaningful story, you don't need willpower. You are not trying to force yourself to do things. You are living in a state of constant inspired action. So where do you go from here? The answer is simple. You don't need a grand plan. You don't need to change everything at once. You simply need to take one small single step. You must perform one quantum shift today, not tomorrow, today. This single action is your declaration to the universe that you are a co-creator of your reality. It is your vote for a new identity. It is the first ripple in the pond of a new life. And the moment you take that step, you will be met with a response. The universe will conspire to meet you halfway. The feedback loops will begin to turn, and you will begin to feel the effortless flow of a life that is not an echo of your past, but a beautiful blueprint for your future.